Okay, so good. Dr. Cornelius had put them asleep so that they could sneak out of the castle. They went into the antechamber, and there, sure enough, the two gentlemen in waiting were sprawling on chairs and snoring hard. Dr. Cornelius quickly cut up the remains of a cold chicken and some slices of venison and put them, with bread and an apple or so, and a little flask of good wine, into the wallet, which he then gave to Caspian. Okay, so it certainly seems like he's preparing to go on some kind of journey. It fitted on by a strap over Caspian's shoulder, like a satchel you would use for taking books to school. Yes. Venison is deer meat. Go fast. Have you your sword? Asked the doctor. Well, yes, said Caspian. Then put this mantle over all of it to hide the sword and the wallet. That's right. And now we must go to the great tower and talk. When they had reached the top of the tower, it was a cloudy night, not at all like the night when they had seen the conjunction of Tarva and Alambil. Dr. Cornelius said, Dear Prince, you must leave this castle at once and go to seek your fortune in the wide world. Your life is in danger here. Pause. Why do you think the author mentions it was a cloudy night? Jacob?
Because he was describing how it was.
Okay. Oh, good. It does help kind of conceal them or hide them, right? But what else? How does it normally, when you talk about an eventful night, how does it make you feel if it was a cloudy night? Riley? Yeah, it's way more spooky. No one tells a scary story and says, oh, it was a beautiful, clear night with the moon shining bright. No. Spooky stories are like cloudy and dark.
Unless it's a really scary finish.
Mm-hmm.
Then they'll go happy.
Shh. Okay, so he's just told Caspian you have to escape. Why? Asked Caspian. Because you are the true king of Narnia, Caspian the 10th, the true son and heir of Caspian the 9th. Long life to your majesty. And suddenly, to Caspian's great surprise, the little man dropped down on one knee and kissed his hand. Why did he do that? Connor?
Because he knew that he was royalty.
He was royalty. Okay, but what does it all mean? I don't understand, said Caspian. I wonder why you've never asked me before, said the doctor. Why, being the son of King Caspian, you are not King Caspian yourself. Everyone except your majesty, meaning you yourself, knows that Miraz is a usurper. When he first began to rule, he did not even pretend to be the king. He called himself Lord Protector. But then your royal mother died, the good queen, and the only Telmarine who was ever kind to me. And then, one by one, all the great lords who had known your father died or disappeared. Not by accident either. Miraz weeded them out. Belisar and Euvelus were shot with arrows on a hunting party. By chance, it was pretended. All the great house of the Passarids he sent to fight giants on the northern frontier, till one by one they fell. Aurelian and Aramon and a dozen more he executed for treason on a false charge. The two brothers of Beaver's Dam he shut up as madmen, and finally he persuaded the 7 noble lords, who alone among all the Telmarines did not fear the sea, to sail away and look for new lands beyond the Eastern Ocean, and, as he intended, they never came back. And when there was no one left who could speak a word for you, then his flatterers, as he had instructed them, begged him to become king. And of course, he did. Okay, so Dr. Cornelius just spent that whole long paragraph describing how Miraz came to power. Okay, so King Caspian the 9th, that is Prince Caspian's father, okay, Caspian the 9th died. Look up here. Caspian the 9th died. Caspian the 10th is Prince Caspian, okay? And up until this point, he has never even thought about, you know what, why am I not the king? It was my dad that was king. Why is my uncle king and not me? Okay? So he describes how when Caspian the Ninth died, Miraz came in, got rid of anybody that supported Caspian the Ninth, and he took over power. You see that? What are some of the ways he gets rid of the other men that supported Caspian the Ninth? Riley? Very good. He convinced some people that they were madmen. He sent some of them away to the sea, which he knew would never come back. Very good. Excellent. What else, Cameron? On accident, right? A hunting injury. Connor?
He executed 12 of them.
Very good. He had them falsely accused. Aiden?
I just now realize why he doesn't want anyone going towards the water.
Why?
Because they might end up blaming those people that he sent away earlier, and then they might bring them back.
They might, but it's more so because he's afraid Aslan will come. And he knows that Aslan's a good guy and is going to beat him up. Yes.
So did Caspian the Ninth die of natural causes, or did he have him killed too?
Good question. The book doesn't actually say.
And also, why did he just say there was an accident? Why couldn't he have just said a bear mob that would kill the other people?
Well, that would be an accident, yes. A hunting accident. Whatever the case, he made it look like it was not his fault they died. When it was.
Yeah, but why didn't he just kill the other people around and say bear mob them?
I guess he needed the other men, I guess. So, now that Dr. Cornelius is telling Caspian, hey, you need to get away, Caspian begins to put these pieces together. He says, do you mean he now wants to kill me, too? Said Caspian. That is almost certain, said Dr. Cornelius. But why now? Said Caspian. I mean, if he wanted to kill me, why didn't he do it long ago if he wanted to? And what harm have I done to him? Well, he has changed his mind about you because of something that happened only 2 hours ago. The Queen has had a son. Okay, so remember back when they were talking about the Queen all of a sudden had all these medical problems and there was all this pother and hustle and bustle in the castle about it? She was pregnant. Okay, so she had just had a son. So that means that now Miraz has an heir that he wants to give the throne to. The only person in his way is Caspian. Okay?
Caspian should strike back, honestly. I just grabbed the sword.
Brooklyn? Mm-hmm. Yes. Some parts of it are different. Aiden? Well, I don't see what that's got to do with it, said Caspian. Don't see? Exclaimed the doctor. Have all my lessons in history and politics taught you no more than that? Listen, as long as he had no children of his own, he was willing enough that you should be king after he died. He may not have cared much about you, but he would rather you should have the throne than a stranger. But now that he has had a son of his own, he will want his own son to be the next king. You are in the way, and so he'll clear you out of the way. Is he really as bad as that? Said Caspian. Would he really murder me? He murdered your father, said Dr. Cornelius.
I knew.
Caspian felt very queer and said nothing. I can tell you the whole story, said the doctor, but not now. There's no time. You must fly at once. Well, you'll come with me, said Caspian. No, I dare not, said the doctor. It would make your danger greater. 2 are more easily tracked down than 1. Dear Prince, dear King Caspian, you must be very brave. You must go alone and at once. Try to get across the southern border to the court of King Nan of Archenland. He will be good to you. Shall I never see you again? Said Caspian in a quavering voice. I hope so, dear king, said the doctor. What friend shall I have in the world except your majesty? And I have little magic. But in the meantime, speed is everything. Here are 2 gifts before you go. This is a little purse of gold. Alas, all the treasure in this castle should be your own by your rights. And here is something far better than gold. He put in Caspian's hands something which he could hardly see, but which he knew, by the feel of it, to be a horn. So, that, said Dr. Cornelius, is the greatest and most sacred treasure of Narnia. Many terrors I endured, many spells did I utter to find it when I was still young. It is the magic horn of Queen Susan herself, when she left behind her when she vanished from Narnia at the end of the Golden Age. Remember back when Susan talks about how, I must have dropped the horn when I came back into England, right? Because when they went back to Cair Paravel, that is the only gift that was missing in the treasure chamber, right? Who found it later on? Dr. Cornelius. It is said that whoever blows it shall have strange help, but no one can say how strange. It may have the power to call Queen Lucy and King Edmund and Queen Susan and High King Peter back from the past, and they will set all to rights. It may be that it will call up Aslan himself. Take it, King Caspian, but do not use it except for your greatest need. And now, haste, haste, haste! The little door at the very bottom of the tower, the door into the garden, is unlocked. There we must part. Well, can I get my horse, Destria? Said Caspian. He's already saddled and waiting for you just at the corner of the orchard. During the long climb down the winding staircase, Cornelius whispered many more words of direction and advice. Caspian's heart was sinking, but he tried to take it all in. Then came the fresh air in the garden, a fervent hand clasp with the doctor, like a handshake, a run across the lawn, a welcoming whinny from Destrier, and so King Caspian X left the castle of his fathers. Looking back, he saw fireworks going up to celebrate the birth of the new prince. All night he rode southward, choosing byways and bridle paths through woods as long as he was in country that he knew. But afterward he kept to the high road. Destrier was as excited as his master at this unusual journey, and Caspian, though tears had come into his eyes at saying goodbye to Dr. Cornelius, felt brave and, in a way, happy to think that he was King Caspian, riding to seek adventurers, with his sword on his left hip and Queen Susan's magic horn on his right. But when day came, with a sprinkle of rain, and he looked about him and saw on every side unknown woods, wild heaths and blue mountains, he thought how large and strange the world was, and felt frightened and small. Jacob?
So can you only use the horn once?
Have to wait and see.
Because I just got confused because it said that only glow in your greatest need. I was wondering if you could only use it once so that way she would glow.
It's a good question. I don't know.
Then Mary, wouldn't it have disappeared from Mary? Because she already blew it once.
Mary? What do you mean?
I mean, yes, Susan.
Oh. Well, I think for Susan it probably works all the time, but maybe for someone else it only works once.
Oh yeah, it was Aslan.
Mm-hmm.
No, Aslan gave it to Father. I don't know.
We may have to reread the first book. Sadiksha? I want to say, maybe 19, 21, somewhere around there. He's an older teenager, almost an adult. Shh. As soon as it was full daylight, he left the road and found an open grassy place amid a wood where he could rest. He took off Destrier's bridle and let him graze, ate some cold chicken and drank a little wine, and presently fell asleep. It was late afternoon when he awoke. He ate a morsel. What does that mean? Layla? And continued his journey, still southward by many unfrequented lanes. He was now in a land of hills going up and down, but always more up than down. From every ridge he could see the mountains growing bigger and blacker ahead. As the evening closed in, he was riding their lower slopes. The wind rose. Soon rain fell in torrents. Destrier became uneasy. There was thunder in the air. And now they entered a dark and seemingly endless pine forest. In all the stories Caspian had ever heard of trees being unfriendly to man crowded into his mind. So he's getting kind of scared now. He's not sure where he is. All he remembers are stories people told about how awful the woods are. Remember, they believe the woods are haunted, etc. Okay? Well, they were told that many, many years ago, which is part of the reason why they're afraid of it. He remembered that he was, after all, a Telmarine, one of the race who cut down these trees whenever they could, and were at war with all the wild things. So the trees didn't like the Telmarines. And though he himself might be unlike other Telmarines, the trees could not be expected to know this. Nor did they. The wind became a tempest. The woods roared and creaked all around him. Then there came a crash. A tree fell right across the road just behind him. What do you think his horse did then? Riley? He's rearing up and he is freaking out. Quiet, Destrier, quiet, said Caspian, patting his horse's neck. But he was trembling himself, and knew that he had escaped death by just an inch. Lightning flashed, and a great crack of thunder seemed to break the sky in two just overhead. Destrier bolted in good earnest. Destrier bolted in good earnest. Caspian was a good rider, but he had not the strength to hold him back. He kept his seat, but he knew that his life hung by a thread during the wild career that followed. So his horse is running wild because it's so scared. It won't listen to him and he can't control it. So he's just trying to hang on and not fall off. Tree after tree rose up before them in the dusk and was only just avoided. Then, almost too suddenly to hurt, and yet it did hurt him too, something struck Caspian on the forehead, and he knew no more. What does that mean? Why does it say he knew no more? What happened? Luke? He passed out. He was knocked unconscious. When he came to himself, he was lying in a fire-lit place with bruised limbs and a bad headache. Low voices were speaking close at hand. And now, said one, before it wakes up, we must decide what to do with it. What is the it you're referring to? Manuel? Him, Prince Caspian. He's like a prisoner. Kill it, said another. We can't let it live. It would betray us. We ought to have killed it at once, or else let it alone, said a third voice. We can't kill it now, not after we've taken it in and bandaged its head and all. It would be murdering a guest. So this is Caspian kind of waking up. Gentlemen, said Caspian in a feeble voice, whatever you do to me, I hope you will be kind to my poor horse. Your horse had taken flight long before we found you, said the first voice, a curiously husky, earthy voice, as Caspian now noticed. Now don't let it talk you round with its pretty words, said the second voice. I still say, horns and halibuts, exclaimed the third voice. Of course we're not going to murder it. For shame, Nickabrick, as in shame on you. What do you say, Truffle Hunter? What shall we do with it? I shall give it a drink, said the first voice, presumably Truffle Hunter's. A dark shape approached the bed. Caspian felt an arm slipped gently under his shoulders. If it was exactly an arm, the shape somehow seemed wrong. The face that bent toward him seemed wrong too. He got the impression that it was very hairy and very long-nosed, and that there were odd white little patches on each side of it. It's a mask of some sort, thought Caspian. Or perhaps I'm just in a fever and I'm imagining it all. A cup full of something sweet and hot was set to his lips, and he drank. At that moment, one of the others in the room poked the fire. A blaze sprang up, and Caspian almost screamed with the shock as the sudden light revealed the face that was looking into his own. It was not a man's face, but a badger's, though larger and friendlier and more intelligent than the face of any badger he had seen before. And it had certainly been talking to him. He saw, too, that he was on a bed of heather in a cave. By the fire sat two little bearded men, so much wilder and shorter and hairier and thicker than Dr. Cornelius that he knew them at once to be real dwarfs. Ancient dwarfs, with not a drop of human blood in their veins. And Caspian knew that he had found the old Narnians at last. Then his head began to swim again. Connor?
I want a pet badger that is in my...
I know. I'll take a badger that takes care of me. Yes.
At first I thought it was, what's his name? The Force King?
Miraz?
Yeah, Mira.
Oh, no.
First I thought Mira got him.
Oh, you're a little scared, huh?
Yeah.
Good. Why does Caspian freak out when he wakes up and realizes the badger's been talking to him? Caleb? Yeah, badgers should not be talking. If you go home today and your dog talks to you, let me know. That's weird. Okay? That's the problem. So, who found Caspian when he was knocked out? The badger, who is Truffle Hunter, and these two dwarfs. One we've heard is named Nickabrick. We don't know the other one yet. Okay? We good? In the next few days, he learned to know them by their names. The badger was called Truffle Hunter. He was the oldest and kindest of the three. The dwarf who had wanted to kill Caspian was a sour black dwarf. That is, his hair and his beard were black and thick and hard like horsehair. His name was Nickabrick. The other dwarf was a red dwarf, with hair rather like a fox's, and he was called Trumpkin. And now, said Nickabrick, on the first evening when Caspian was well enough to sit up and talk, we still have to decide what to do with this human. You two think you've done it a great kindness by not letting me kill it. But I suppose the upshot is that we have to keep it a prisoner for life. I'm certainly not going to let it go alive, to go back to its own kind and betray us all. Why does Nickabrick hate Caspian so much? Brooklyn? And what has the Telmarines done to the dwarfs many years ago? Killed them all and kicked them out of their land. Good.
And they also kind of forced them to, like, some of them did become humans.
Correct. Bulbs and bolsters, Nickabrick, said Trumpkin. Why need you talk so unhandsomely? It isn't the creature's fault that it bashed its head against a tree outside our hole. And I don't think it looks like a traitor. I say, said Caspian, you haven't yet found out whether I want to go back to where I came from. I don't. I want to stay with you, if you'll let me. I've been looking for people like you all my life. That's a likely story, growled Nickabrick. You're a Telmarine and a human, aren't you? Of course you want to go back to your own kind. Well, even if I did, I couldn't, said Caspian. I was flying for my life when I had my accident. The king wants to kill me. If you'd have killed me, you'd done the very thing to please him. Well, now, said Truffle Hunter, you don't say so. Eh? Said Trumpkin. What's that? What have you been doing, human, to fall foul of Miraz at your age? Well, he's my uncle, began Caspian, when Nickabrick jumped up with his hand on his dagger. Why does Nickabrick jump back all of a sudden? This isn't just any human. Why is he all of a sudden like, Connor?
Royalty also Keep the cattle to his uncle where they're at.
Exactly. There you are, he cried. Not only is he a Telmarine, but he's close kin and heir to our greatest enemy. Are you still mad enough or crazy enough to let this creature live? He would have stabbed Caspian then and there if the Badger and Trumpkin had not gotten in the way and forced him back to his seat and held him down. Now, once and for all, Knickerbrick, said Trumpkin, will you please contain yourself? Or must Truffle Hunter and I sit on your head? Knickerbrick sulkily promised to behave, and the other two asked Caspian to tell his whole story. When he had done so, there was a moment's silence. This is the queerest thing I have ever heard, said Trumpkin. I don't like it, said Knickerbrick. I didn't know there were stories about us still told among the humans. The less they know about us, the better. That old nurse now, she'd better have held her tongue. And it's all mixed up with that tutor, a renegade dwarf. Ugh, I hate him. I hate him worse than the humans. You mark my words, no good will come of this. Don't you go talking about things you don't understand, Knickerbrick, said Truffle Hunter. You dwarfs are as forgetful and changeable as the humans themselves. I'm a beast, I am, and a badger, what's more. We don't change. We hold on. I say great good will come of it. This is the true king of Narnia we've got here. A true king, coming back to true Narnia. And we beasts remember, even if the dwarfs forget, that Narnia was never right, except when a son of Adam was king. Whistles and whirligigs, Truffle Hunter, said Trumpkin. You don't mean you want to give the country to humans? I said nothing about that, answered the Badger. It's not men's country. Who should know that better than me? But it's a country for a man to be a king of. We Badgers have long enough memories to know that. Why, bless us all, wasn't the High King Peter a man? Do you actually believe all those old stories? Asked Trumpkin. What is Trumpkin referring to? What are these old stories he's talking about? Matthew? Of who specifically? Who was?
Of King Peter, Prince Edmund, Queen Susan, and Princess Susan.
Very good.
Wait, why aren't they all just
We know what he meant. It's fine. Connor? You are correct. Aiden? Well, he can show it to them, but he can't prove it's magic. Oh, I see what you're saying. I have to wait and see. There's a reason why. Shh, 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 shh. I'm telling you, we don't change, we beasts, the Truffle Hunter. We don't forget. I believe in the High King Peter and the rest that reigned at Cair Paravel as firmly as I believe in Aslan himself. As firmly as that, I dare say, said Trumpkin. But who believes in Aslan nowadays? Okay, remember, it's been many, 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 many years since Aslan, Peter, Susan, Eben, and Lucy were reigning in Narnia. So, since he came, okay? So, a lot of people don't believe in him or in the Pevensey children. They're like, oh, those are just old stories. No one believes in that anymore. But who believes in Aslan nowadays? I do, said Caspian. Of all people, the Telmarine believes in Aslan. Isn't that crazy? And if I hadn't believed in him before, I certainly would now. Back there among the humans, the people who laughed at Aslan, they would have laughed at stories about talking beasts and dwarfs. Sometimes I did wonder if there really was such a person as Aslan. But then again, sometimes I wondered if there were people like you. Yet, there you are. That's right, said Truffle Hunter. You're right, King Caspian. And as long as you will be true to old Narnia, you shall be my king, whatever they say. Long life to your majesty. Ugh, you make me sick, Badger, growled Nickabrick. The High King Peter and the rest may have been men, but they were a different sort of men. This is one of the cursed Telmarines. He has hunted beasts for sport. Haven't you now? He added, rounding suddenly on Caspian. Well, to tell you the truth, I have, said Caspian, but they weren't talking beasts. Whatever, it's all the same thing, said Nickabrick. So Nickabrick's point is this guy, these humans, they hunt people like you, Truffle Hunter. And yet you are saying, you know what, I believe in him to be my king. That's ridiculous. No, said Truffle Hunter. You know it isn't. You know very well that the beasts in Narnia nowadays are different, and are no more than the poor, dumb, witless creatures you'd find in Calormen or Telmar. The smaller, too. They're far more different from us than the half-dwarfs are from you. And Truffle Hunter is saying, no. The beasts, the animals that he hunted as a human, that's not the same thing as Narnian animals, and you know it. Okay, so he's defending Caspian. There was a great deal more talk, but it all ended with the agreement that Caspian should stay, and even the promise that, as soon as he was able to go out, he should be taken to see what Trumpkin called the others. For apparently in these wild parts, all sorts of creatures from the old days of Narnia still lived on in hiding. So we'll have to see tomorrow what they do. Jacob?
How do we even know that if Aslan is still alive?